I've got a big old fat label to slap on Saturday night's game, and this guy over here, Graham Couch, he's going to be the one to decide if I'm being reckless or if I'm just right on this one.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for tuning into Locked On Spartans and making us part of your game week here right on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Matt Sheehan. Over there, hey, that's another host of the Couch in the Room podcast, also great columnist for the Lansing State Journal. That is the one, the only incredible friend of the program, Graham Couch. Now, Graham, I will let you talk. I will. I promise this. But I got to set the table here with just a brief monologue because I'm looking at Saturday, and I've been doing this for quite some weeks, if not months, because, guys, you can go back to the summer shows when we got the question of, hey, what's the most important game? What's the big one? Obviously, the first place game, Michigan. Okay, it goes without saying. Now, the silver medalist, it's not a conference game. I think it is this Saturday's game because two things. One, the amount of good you can gain with a win against the Eagles. It's revenge. It's redemption. If you win, you probably show a baseline of competency in the trenches. And let's say Aidan Chiles balls out, gets some belief amongst this fan base for those that yet aren't believers. And oh yeah, another step closer to making a bowl game. Something we haven't done here since 2021. But Graham, the other part of this might even be bigger than the first. It's the good amount of damage you could do with a loss here. Doubts for the rest of the year creep in. Let's say the pass protection still isn't good after a shaky week against Western. Let's say Chiles isn't all 100% there in his second year as a starter. And Graham, you can't beat Boston College. Who are you going to beat in your conference slate? I mean, it's going to be as hard to get to 6 wins as it will be getting this fan base back and involved in the season. This will not be a walkover game for Michigan State, but Graham, this is where I'm seeking your guidance, your maturity, your mentorship. Can I use the term must-win game for Saturday, or have I just regressed back to my old panicky college self here? Please shoot me straight.
It's more of a must-win than most things we call a must-win, right? So,
I'll take that. Yeah.
If the Lions lose their opener, people will
panic.
Over.
People will
panic. And that's ridiculous. It's 0-1 in an NFL season. If the Tigers lose 3 in a row, people panic, which is ridiculous. They're 80-57 or whatever.
I will panic though.
But this is a little different in that this is a program that desperately needs momentum, right? And this is a chance at momentum number one. It's a game, so that's the fan base part of it. Like, can you imagine the crowd at Youngstown State, even if you score touchdowns, even if you look good, like nobody's going to believe anything if you don't do it against Boston College. And so, sure, you can lose to Boston College. They may be better than people realize. They've got second-year coach and Bill O'Brien. They've got some seasoned players on defense. They've got quite a few guys back there. They may be pretty good. And we just don't know that. Like, we didn't know a lot of things that happened last week in college football. And you could bounce back. You could win at USC, and you could, upset some other teams, and the season could be good, and this could not be the end of things. But for a couple weeks, it will feel like it if you don't. And until your next win, or in terms of the trajectory of the season and the ability to sort of, get towards 7 wins, get towards a bowl, get towards something that feels like satisfying success, they've got to win it. And then from the player standpoint, this is a game you earmarked, right? And I've seen it as long as I've been covering sports and college football especially. Getting kids who are 18 to 23 to really dial in week to week is half the battle, right? A lot of times, who's better than who, it comes down to that. And I've seen weeks where people are really focused and dialed in, and that pays off. This team they want this badly. They feel like they blew it last. So if they're focused, if they're dialed in, if this is their best, and it's not enough, then it's concerning. And then there are also the reasons would be, why isn't enough? Like, what didn't go well? Was it Aidan Chiles? Are there things that he just doesn't do well enough yet? Was the running, was the ability to run the football just a mirage and based on Western Michigan? Like, why didn't it look good enough? So there'll be all those questions as well. So in terms of what can be, there will be other must wins. and there will be other games. Like the Michigan game is going to be massive, for the psyche of a lot of things. But I for right now, this is as big as you get a week 2 game against Boston College.
I also think that this is one of those games where you lose a lot more if you do take a defeat, rather than, hey, how much you gain with the win. Yeah. And like, yes, you would gain a lot with the win. It's not going to be, 2021 at Miami levels of hysteria with this team, but it shows growth, right? Whereas a loss, I don't want to make everything like a DEFCON 1 3 Mile Island meltdown situation here, but truly that's going to do some damage to this fan base. And I know that might be irrelevant. Like, it's not like, hey, we're between the hashes playing these games or anything, but in this place where the program is at right now, needs energy, needs juice. This would be dagger, maybe with like a lowercase d, as opposed to the good that a win would bring. Do you think I'm onto something, or is that a little too extreme?
Yeah, I mean, how relevant that would be would depend. Like, the Youngstown State game would be kind of an odd, it wouldn't be a great vibe.
Yeah.
But they don't come back home again until UCLA after the Youngstown State game. So
forever.
Lots of stuff can happen.
Right.
So you go to USC and win, or you go to Nebraska and win, and people start to say, okay, there's something there. So it's not that you can't recover from it. In the short term, though, it would be tough. Like in our business, there would be a moment of anger, but then there would be just this bit of apathy that you and I fear more than anything.
Right.
And if readers, if listeners, if viewers don't care enough to want to engage, you can always tell when you can no longer write features about kids because nobody wants to read that. They just want the straight fire columns. That's never a good place for a program or a season. I think we would temporarily be there very early in a year, and you want to avoid that. And there is a scenario where they look pretty good, and somehow Boston College is just a really good team, and they wind up losing a close game, and people are mad, but they're not. It's not quite. But that's a hard. That's a hard needle to thread.
It is something I've learned here in the last few years is that, hey, people either love watching, listening, reading when great things are going great, last year's basketball team, or when horrible things are going horrible, like the whole Mel Tucker fallout. That fed families over here on this end of the microphone, Graham. That was great. But, you don't want to be caught in this apathy here. And look, not enough about, our lives and our business. I also just want to, for the first time in a long time, be doing happy shows going into October. Is that so much to ask? I just want things to be happy just for my own selfish fandom too over here. But let's talk about. I'm sorry, if you have anything to add, please.
No, they're going to beat Youngstown, right? And they're going to beat them convincingly. So if you win this game, you get to go 3-0 heading into USC, and that gets to feel like a big game. Gets to feel like an event. Gets to feel like there can be a lot of alums and fans out there.
Yep.
The opportunity becomes tremendous. Does that game get to be the Miami of 2021? Now, who knows? USC could be really good. They played a bad Missouri State team, but they scored 73 points last week. So that could be like a bridge too far for this program. But the thing is, if you win this game, that USC game doesn't feel like a must win. It feels like an opportunity.
Right.
But if you go there, you play, okay, USC is just better than Michigan State right now. People will deal with that fine. You got to win this. This is the game I just feel like people will struggle to deal with. I think people will deal with losing at Nebraska. Okay, that's a tough place to play in a season program that may be a year ahead of where Michigan State is. You could wind up going 3-0 and lose those 2 games, and people would deal with it. And you come home and you play a UCLA team you ought to beat. And if you're 4-2 at the end of that, people will deal with it. They'll be okay. And I think that's what's at stake here. The fact that you're going to play this whole season fighting to get back to 500 if you don't win this, whereas you have a chance to play the whole season from above 500 and hanging out of that and pushing toward a bowl. I just think it's a tremendous swing game in a lot of ways.
Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time they drive. And that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every detail. As an athlete focuses on every detail, Mazda does the same. From metallic accents to hand-stitching Napa leather, you can feel it the moment you get behind the wheel, the smooth handling, intuitive controls, and the standard all-wheel drive in every crossover SUV. Whether it's a quick drive to practice or a weekend road trip to follow your favorite team, Mazda makes it even better every single day to drive. Guys, it's the small details that makes the big plays. And just like there's more to every player, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. It's Mazda, move and be moved. Also, guys, before we get back to the one, the only Graham Couch, we have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't like, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started, and everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey, or hey, go ahead and find the link in the show notes. Thanks a lot, guys, for helping out. And it is going to be a swing game, too, because whether you look at the FanDuel line, right now it's at 3.5 at the time of recording, Michigan State being favored in this game. But S&P Plus, you go to Bill Connolly's analytics, he has this as a 2-point Boston College win. Are you a little surprised to see that this is so closely predicted, even with everything that Boston College loses from last year? Do you think they return enough from last year? Do you really think that this will come down to a one-possession field goal game? Or are you like me? Do you think Michigan State should win this by at least a touchdown despite all the good that Boston College has going for it?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, I really don't know what to expect. I don't know how good Boston College is. I think they do have a good coach, and I think they do have some things back on the edge defensively and in the secondary that are, they've got some guys there that are a different level than what Western Michigan presented. Although Western Michigan had a heck of a defensive end, and people should be aware of that. But I think it's okay to predict anything because I don't think anybody knows. And in this day and age in college football, there's this much turnover. And look, Michigan State was better against Western than they were a year in their debut, without question. And so even in areas they weren't great, they were better. Aidan Chiles wasn't great in this opener, but he was better than he was a year ago. The run game was dramatically better in the first half. The secondary receiver, with Omari Kelly is something that looks like a real promising thing. The defense, I think, looks pretty mature and resilient. Now we'll see what happens when they get hit a few more times. But I think there were a lot of things that this game looked different. The second half was not great, and I understand why people aren't happy about it. But to me, I think you should feel better about MSU than you did a year ago, and there's more reason to think they're a better team. But what we don't know, because our focus as Michigan State, is Boston College. We have not analyzed, even those of us who are, talking about the next game, we haven't analyzed it in the same detail. We haven't spent the summer talking about it. We don't have the same eye for what they went through a year ago. And so to know what that team is, I just don't think, that determines some of it, and I don't think anybody knows.
The only thing that I keep barking back and forth when it comes to Boston College of what I do know is that they lost 2 offensive linemen to the NFL draft. They lost a third guy in that line who latched onto the Patriots and then was eventually cut. One of their edge guys was drafted in the second round, and I also have to earmark it with this comment, no disrespect to Boston College. I do have a lot of respect for Bill O'Brien. I think he's a fine football coach. Boston College doesn't seem like a program that reloads that kind of talent year in and year out. So I know it's a very elementary way of thinking about it. Just, 4 players that went to the NFL they have to replace in the trenches. But I don't know. You saw the rush numbers against Fordham, and it's not like I had the all-22 tape or anything, but 2.9 yards per carry against Fordham, team that practices in the neighborhoods of the Bronx. Do something, Michigan State. My God, come on, guys. So, again, we're going to get way more into the weeds of Boston College in a future episode with AJ Black of Locked On Boston College. But just from the outside looking in, as it pertains to analyzing Boston College, I do like what I see. And it's home. It's revenge. It's redemption. And
that's the thing.
I can't do this, Graham.
That's the thing. They've been locked in, and they really have. I mean, and they've wanted this for a while. And so that's, you can have games where you get caught where you're not as focused. And, they won't be as focused on Youngstown State, and they'll just be better than Youngstown State, and so they'll win that game convincingly.
Right.
But you can have games where you lose for that. This will not be that. If they lose this game, it'll be because they can't execute, or they get beat at the line of scrimmage, or something else that could be concerning. And I think I'm going to pick them to win. But I do feel like it's going to be a competitive game in the fourth quarter. Now, we have also seen, if you've followed Michigan State long enough, there are days where the score is not necessarily representative of the difference. We've seen games where it's 42-0 at halftime against Notre Dame, right? There have been moments where things snowball, a big emotional home setting. And this has a chance to be that, where it can go one of two ways, where things can get tight when they're not going well, or things just start going your way and all of a sudden you're in control. Now, the question I think we would all have for this Michigan State team based on last week and last year and sort of the start under Jonathan Smith is, if they do grab some sort of control, how do they finish the game? What does their second half look like? Can they kind of drive it home? And I'm not entirely confident in that right now.
And that funnels right into where I wanted to go here is, what specifically are you going to be watching for this Saturday night under the lights? Is it something, hey, just the pass protection? Because against Western, they gave up 10 pressures. They cited communication issues, identification issues at the line, and also rotated a lot of guys too. I think that they'll trim that up here in this week. Or is it grander? Is it these second halves? Because you go back to the start of November last year, Graham, the offense has scored 2 touchdowns in the 5 games since November 1st in the second half of last year. It's not acceptable. I don't think that's hyperbolic to say that. That's downright embarrassing. So is it going to be, how you look in a second half? Is it going to be a certain position group, or what's got your eye on Saturday night?
Yeah, it's the line of scrimmage on offense. Both, do they run it again, and how they pass protect, and then Aidan Chiles' reaction to how they pass protect. One of the things Jonathan Smith talked about this week was his eyes dropped too quickly. I asked Chiles about that on Tuesday, and he said, it's one of the things he's really working on. It's not the same with every time pass protection breaks down. He said, but it is for guys who are overly athletic. And I think one of the things, if you're a high school football coach or somebody who's a great athlete, do not let them run until the fourth quarter across the line of scrimmage, because what it trains them to do in terms of instinct will limit their career as a quarterback. It is the problem Chiles has. He's a great athlete. And so when he sees trouble, his instinct becomes to try to get out of it with his legs, when the only way he's going to be a great quarterback is if he gets out of it with his eyes. And that's something he's working on. And I think, Michigan State fans should hope for and accept more sacks. I would say sack fumbles. I would say interceptions into trouble. I think anytime Aidan Chiles, now you don't want to lose this game, but ultimately as he's developing, anytime he chooses to stay in the pocket to try to find the solution, to get rid of it, which he's got to do right, or to make a subtle movement or look, is better than him running it, even if sometimes in the moment it's less fruitful, because it's almost like being rewarded for the wrong thing. When he runs down to the 3-yard line on a scramble, he is being rewarded for the wrong thing. And it's not that that's always the wrong thing. They're big, you want to get to a point where that's a real weapon, but his instinct is his eyes. But right now, as a developing quarterback, he will not get where Michigan State needs him to be if his focus is not first on his eyes and arm being the solution. And so that's what I'm watching, because I think that is so important to the ceiling of his career and MSU's tenure with him.
I think it's just so easier said than done too, of course, because going back to last year, he was running for his life every snap. So he's got to really just burn in his brain that you got to trust your offensive line. And there certainly were moments where, they couldn't be trusted against Western, but oh man, all he's been is just battered and bruised behind this offensive line. But you're right. It's going to have to be a group effort, but an important accomplishment if they could actually show that they took steps. Yeah, and just hanging around for a little longer, making things happen, watch routes develop, all this and that. So we'll see if we can see it starting this Saturday. That'd be really inspiring if they could bounce back from what happened on Friday night. But look, Graham, you came from the MSU football building, the Tom Izzo football building, for player availability with the media today. Now, there's a smattering of players that talked. I'm just going to, name some things that I highlighted. Michael Masunis talked about how good of a look it is for, where Michigan State was last year against Boston College compared to where they are this year, how much they've grown. Jack Velling talked about the importance of establishing the run to set up play action. Seems pretty elementary, but it is important. Aidan Chiles thought it was interesting that he said that he listens to opposing pregame and postgame press conferences to learn about them. And Stanton Ramil, he said they played a large rotation last week to keep guys fresh, get game action. I do think that this will be a tighter rotation coming up. Anything during media availability today with the players that really caught your ear, or is it just we're checking the boxes here, guys?
Yeah, I would say, why do we write the stories? You already have all this information that just came out of all the stuff we had. I mean, what's the point? I'm
sorry.
No, I don't think there was anything earth-shattering that came out today. I think the stuff with Chiles about really understanding that is a place he has to work. The tight ends. There's a lot of tight ends available today. I'm still the tight ends is not an area I'm looking at a ton on. Like if they become a big part of the offense, that's great. I just think Michigan State has difference makers elsewhere that are a bigger part of the season. The tight end's an important part of the team, right? Because of what they do with in protection and also, catching the ball. But I don't think there was anything that came out of today that I think was all that was earth shattering. But I think they are in a decent place, and I think they feel. I think they, when they left the Florida Atlantic game last year, they were a little. They lost a little bit of confidence somewhere there, and I don't think that's the case now. And so even though the second half wasn't good, they saw the first half. The second half happened probably for a variety of reasons. I don't think they completely showed everything they have, and they probably approached the second half in the wrong way. And, it would have been interesting if that game was 10-3, how they would have approached and would have looked at, because I don't think people trust it would have been better. But I think you would have seen more from Nick Marsh, different stuff they would have unveiled, and I think they were a little careful.
NFL season is almost here, guys, and FanDuel is making sure you are ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. That's right. New customers, get ready for this one. New customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app, guys. Use it for futures, use it for props, use it for same-game parlays, however you want to use it. Guys, go ahead and burn it up over at FanDuel. Now, guys, I love using FanDuel because, not only do they keep every game more exciting, like, for example, Monday night, I'm going to be honest, I do love college football, but very little actually interests me about Bill Belichick and UNC playing against TCU. That wasn't until I made a good old same-game parlay. Thankfully, that hit. Just made it 3 legs, kept it simple. But, yeah, the TCU Horned Frogs -3.5 portion of that leg, not even really a sweater. But, hey, guys, it kept the game even more exciting. And, hey, when you win, you get paid out very quickly with FanDuel. Guys, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. It is that easy. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Again, guys, FanDuel.com. Also, hey, tracking money, right? We all wish it was a little easier. Well, with Monarch Money, it actually can be easier. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Now, Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app, guys. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building your wealth. And guys, better yet, if you have a partner you share finances with, you want a full, clear view of all your accounts just to keep track of it. Guys, it's Monarch. They make it crystal clear to follow everything that's going on, even if it's across 2 people, guys. It's so simple to link up with Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Again, guys, that's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year over at monarchmoney.com. Yeah, it truly seemed like the game was put away after the second touchdown. I mean, that's just me in the stands. I'm not wearing a helmet and shoulder pads, obviously, but I'm sure maybe that crept in. It's halftime. It's 21-0. Our defense is cooking. They will not be scoring 20 points to match us. But, Graham, that is where I wanted to go with this. It feels different than last year then, right? Like when you're hearing these players talk, when you're in these post-game press conferences, whether it's players or coaches, it's not just me from the outside trying to look at this through green stained glasses and just have optimism before it all fades away. Like this actually does seem like mentally a more secure team at the moment.
Well, I think it's because they know who they are a little bit better. And that's not to say they know they're great. The problem with being a team that doesn't know who you are is you get a little boastful. You think maybe you're better than you are. I don't think they think of themselves as better than they are. I think they just have a better understanding of where they are and their capabilities. I think they've got some guys who have been through it. And I think that junior class and the older guys who sort of lived through, the end of the Mel Tucker era and some real misery and have stuck around and have become good leaders. I think there is some leadership. There's some voice you can feel. Mm-hmm. And there's a sense of they know what it takes to compete. When you get your butt kicked a lot over a couple of years, I think that's, they know what it feels like and looks like when you're good enough not to. And I think they just have a better sense of that now than they did about themselves a year ago.
Anyone that you've talked to have a louder voice this year, or anyone that just seems more of a leader than you were expecting going into this year? Maybe it's because they're not a captain or they're still young, or any player really impressed you so far in front of the media?
Well, Omari Kelly does. I mean, he's a guy who, the way he carries himself like a 10-year vet receiver in the NFL, and then it shows up in the games. He just looks like a guy who knows how to get it done, and Chiles has talked about that too. Just having a guy who just knows how to get open, and what that does for him. I mean, that's opposite already having Nick Marsh, and I just think that makes such a difference. I think Jordan Hall is one of the best examples of this, though. He's a guy who thought he was going to be the guy a year ago. They bring in a transfer. He's not, right? And so he's got to wait his turn. And he speaks with a thoughtfulness that he's always had. But it's I don't know. There's a little bit of wisdom behind him that you can just feel in his tone and the words he chooses and uses. And I think that's a big deal. And then when you see it show up on the field with a really good game, that's important too, because you can tout somebody as a leader. I mean, look, Darius Snow would be one of the great leaders if he could see the field more often, right? Yeah, and it's a shame what's happened to him physically in his career to some degree, because I think so you have to be somebody and get on the field. Like Tum Tum Nairn in basketball was a great leader, but he couldn't get on the court, didn't develop his game enough. So you need somebody like Jordan Hall to become the player that it looks like he's become. And when those two things coincide, you really have something special.
I mean, God, Jordan Hall, I mean, that is a great case of taking what you've learned the last few years, because he's seen it all just in his 3 years here at Michigan State, whether it was just his own personal journey of, like you said, taking that backup role, kind of a step back last year, or everything that was going on around the program. My goodness gracious. I mean, yeah, you're going to be wise beyond your years, even if you're, 20, 21 years old, for example. A lot of adversity, but Graham, speaking of adversity here, boy, howdy, the concourse and concession lines at Spartan Stadium. Oh my, was that tumultuous on Friday night. Now, again, I would not bring this up if it wasn't for the amount of emails that we got, lockedonspartans@gmail.com, that were only about concession lines. Over on my end, I'm not kidding. This is not a joke. I'm not doing a bit. We got almost as many emails about the concession lines on Friday night than we got in the post game after the Michigan game last year, where the Spartans saw a game that they could have won evaporate in front of their eyes. How about your end, Graham? Have you gotten the ire of the fan base? And I like it too. I love just railing on random things like this that have nothing to do with games. This is what brings the community together. But you've gotten the same?
Yeah, sure. Heard a lot about it, and sort of waiting to see what happens the week 2, because here, this is the first sort of front-facing challenge for J-Bat, right? Mm-hmm. Where people, this is a decision that was made under his watch that will, that people don't seem to like as much. Now, there are some food offerings. I've heard some people like some of the food offerings. But you had a situation where you used to have volunteers in churches and community organizations would fully staff something because people were just volunteering. You did not have staffing issues, right, in the old way, and people made money as fundraisers, and you've chosen to go away from that. And I'm sure there are financial particulars that make sense in terms of – but if the idea is to improve the Spartan Stadium experience and it doesn't improve it, then you got an issue. I mean, I don't know how – I have not been to a Michigan State game in the stands. I went once in 2017 with my mom, but I haven't gone regularly since the early 99, a long time ago. But I don't know what people – I've never understood people who just get up and go at halftime. I used to get up 30 seconds to a minute before the end of the second quarter. I would go visit the trough, my favorite thing about the bathrooms.
Of course.
And then I would be, before the big crowd got down there, I'd already be in line for an ice cream cookie sandwich. And I would be back in my seat with 12 to 15 minutes to go in halftime. I've never understood the people just wait to get up at halftime. I've seen what that looks like down there anywhere. There's 75,000 people at halftime. I don't know what you expect. Mm-hmm. So that's a self-management issue. You can't wait till halftime to get up. But I do think that, this is something though that needs to be, and they're very aware of it. I mean, I'm sure they are. You're
of course they are. Yeah.
So we'll see what this week turns. I didn't want to get into a column on it or anything without giving them a chance to fix it. And I think, this week's a big game, so the folks will be on the game. The week you really got to have it right is Youngstown State, because people are going for the band, for the food, for the experience. They've been given tickets that they don't usually – it's going to be a lot of people don't usually go. It's all that stuff. You got to have it right by week 3. And then you got to figure out why it wasn't right last week and quickly move to change that, because that you can have all the bells and whistles, you can have new video boards, but if people are missing a quarter of football to go get food, then you're just missing the whole point. And so the efficiency has to be ahead of every other bell and whistle. Now, you've heard my complaint on this, with 37 4-minute media timeouts, I would think what they ought to do is just at the end of the third quarter, put 3 of those bad boys together and give everybody like 9.5, 10 full minutes to go.
Second halftime. Yeah, I like that.
Halftime. Make it shorter. But heck, I mean, it would let the momentum go a little different. I don't even understand how fans deal with the. I'm going to tease my own. At some point here, I'm going to do a column where I'm going to pull the VCR out of the basement, grab a tape of like a 1995 game, and I'm going to go through it commercial by commercial, and relative to last week and this week, and just how different the timeouts are, how different the length of game is and the stoppages, because I do not think fans would fall in love with this experience. Like, they have us hooked, and that's great.
Right. Yeah, we're suckers.
We're all mentally ill. We get it. Mm-hmm. But if you want generations to follow, I'm not sure a 10-year-old who already doesn't have an attention span, can fall in love with a sport that feels and looks like that, where it's 4 hours. Where there was one point in the game, I think it was where there were 3 media timeouts inside of 20 minutes of actual time in that last game, and it's like 3.5 minutes, and you just can't have that. So that's not changing. That's my own frustration with the sport, is how poorly packaged it is. But I do think you have to get it so that you're really well staffed. People can get what they want and get it efficiently. And I'm sure beer makes this harder, because people now want a new thing that's available. That's, if there's more trips to the bathroom when you serve beer. There's just,
it's true. Yeah, that's just that's science.
But yeah, they've got to fix it. It's something that can't be a complaint week 2 and week 3.
And I'm glad we touched on it, because again, like, passion from the fan base. I've already railed on it. I talked about my 40-minute wait, and Graham, I did what you talked about. We did go down right before the 2-minute warning at halftime. Still missed the entire halftime. Still missed like the first 4 minutes of the third quarter. Yeah. Anyway, everyone's heard my gripes about it. But
how many? What were you trying to do? Was it bathroom and food item? What were you trying to do in that period of time?
This was very quick trip to the bathroom and then food item, but not even in the new places. This was just Sparty snacks. We're going to get a pretzel, maybe a bratwurst. Yeah. They turn the pretzel lights off after 35 minutes of waiting in line. Right when it's our turn, we get a hot dog, which was 1 degree Fahrenheit for every minute we waited, which was a 40-degree hot dog. It was tough. It was tough. But I will give them the benefit of the doubt with this. Not the first time there's been concession gripes with Spartan Nation. And this went back, the last I can remember it, when they first started serving beer. Same thing, 30, 40, 45-minute lines. It gets better. It gets tinkered with. The new athletic administration seems like a bunch of go-getters that will make sure that this is fixed in due time. But, Lordy, was that a radioactive inbox on that Friday evening, Saturday morning, Graham. That's passionate.
Well, because people missed the game. Hopefully they missed the second half, which was not as good. So
yeah, I was actually doing themselves a favor by missing the second half. That's right. Well, Graham, thanks a lot for the favor that you've done here, joining us once again against all odds on Locked On Spartans. You're always generous with your time, your insight, your knowledge. So, hey, can't thank you enough. Anything you want to plug here before we let you go and enjoy the rest of week 2 of Michigan State football?
People know where to find me. This is probably already too much of me. Thanks for having me.
That's the spirit. There we go. Love it. All right, guys, we will be back tomorrow. Again, Locked On Boston College, a little bit of crossover. And then later this week, that's right, NBC's own Noah Eagle joining the show again. I don't know why you people keep agreeing to come on this show, but thanks a lot for it, guys. All right, guys.